looking at the camera.
Hey everybody! It's my monthly Patreon hangout, and you know what? It's summertime, the scent of flowers is in the air, the bees are buzzing, the birds are chirping, my beard is the perfect length. I wish I could just keep it this way. So how is everybody? Welcome once again. Thank you everybody in the room with me for joining me. Thank you everybody for watching. A few of us I know saw each other at the Reason Rally.
Yeah, indeed we did, and it was great.
Did everybody who was there have a good time?
It was a great time. My only disappointment was there weren't more people, and yeah, I know there's a whole bunch of foofra about why there weren't more people and all that, to which I say, just don't bother me with that crap. I had a great day, and it was a good time, and the hardest part of the whole business was driving back through the rain. I don't know if you hit it, Steve, but I hit it big time.
I took a bus, so I didn't have to worry about that.
Slacker.
I did not drive myself.
No, I did not want to be driving. As I said in the last hangout, I do not want to drive in D.C. or any major city in general.
I was this close to driving in. I actually made the decision not, and I mean driving like all the way in, because I had to drive a little bit because I'm an hour from D.C. But I was this close to driving all the way into town, and just parking in the city, and I made the decision not to, literally like the night before. All the way up to that point, I was like, man, because they're doing maintenance on the metro, and I was like, and I always take the metro in, and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna drive in, and I got driving directions, and I was like, oh great, it's gonna be all right, and then I realized that I could not find any place to park. Like anywhere near my hotel. And I also realized relatively late in the game that my hotel was a lot further from the rally site than I thought it was. So I said, you know what, fuck it, I don't care. I'm going to take the train in like I always do. So that's what I ended up doing. And luckily at the the metro stop that I got off at to actually go to the rally that morning, it was still about a 15-minute walk to get to the rally site, but that wasn't so bad, and I met a friend of mine there, and we walked on together, and then later that evening, I actually ran into my fellow YouTuber Serious Mind, Joe, who is in these hangouts sometimes with us, and he and I caught a cab together back to the hotel because we were staying at the same hotel, so it all worked out. But I was almost about to subject myself to the nightmare of driving in Washington, D.C., which you should never do. I don't know what I was thinking.
Well,
don't ever drive in D.C.
I work down here, and I know not to recommend that to anyone. So
now
it's the worst.
I used GPS to get in, and it took me straight to the hotel. But I'll tell you what, number one, $18 a day to park the car was, shall we say, a bit much.
Yeah.
And number two, getting out was intriguing. I mean, GPS got me out, but it was semi-intriguing. I will say this about Crystal City, though. Somebody probably associated with the Reason Rally arranged for a shuttle to and from the Lincoln Memorial, and that boy, I saw that in his, thank you, I kiss your feet, whatever have you. That was just premium.
Yeah, I see. As some people know and some people don't know, because why would you care? I don't have a smartphone. I have an old-fashioned feature phone, like a flip phone, because I'm
Grandpa Steve.
Because I'm an old man, exactly. But I actually got a GPS for my truck like a few months ago because I got lost driving in Washington, D.C. So that was the whole reason that I got it, and I thought I'm going to use this for the Reason Rally, and then I wound up not using it. But I'm still glad I have it, because in case I am ever punished for my sins somehow, and my punishment is you have to drive in Washington, D.C. At least I'll have a GPS. I was in D.C. I think back in November, maybe October, November, and I was there to do something with the Richard Dawkins Foundation, and I had to take my camera equipment with me, so I drove all the way into town, and getting in was fine. Getting back out was like.
Was it during rush hour?
No, it was later than that. It was like in the evening after. I mean, the streets were not that busy. It wasn't so much the traffic; it was just finding my way out. And I eventually did make it out and made it home. But after as soon as I got home, I sat down in front of this very computer and I ordered a GPS. I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, Steve's trying to leave, and he has the tune of Hotel California going through his mind at the time.
Exactly.
Well,
Like, isn't there any way, if I just keep going in the same direction, I'm going to get out of here eventually, right?
Yeah.
It didn't
I
work.
read a map as well as anybody I know, and I'll tell you what, I am so glad I had GPS getting me in and out, because it is just not intuitively obvious at all. I mean, especially little things like which way is a one-way street, and can you really use this route or whatever have you.
Oh
Never
yeah,
mind
the
getting-
one-way routes that change depending on the time of day. Those are what
Yeah.
really piss off the
Oh,
tourists.
swell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not sure how I got lost, because getting out of town from the Dawkins Foundation building is actually pretty easy, because it's on 14th Street, and if you just keep going straight, like eventually you get the George Washington Parkway, and I mean, it's not that difficult. But I missed a turn or something, and if you fuck up once, you're doomed.
Exactly.
You have to be 100% right all the time, or you'll end up trapped in a maze. But yeah, actually, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, as for the Reason Rally itself, yeah, I had a great time. Just most of it was just walking around, seeing it was there. Although I think my favorite moment of the rally was probably during Penn Jillette's talk, when he brought the young woman from Ecuador's Got Talent on stage.
Yeah.
And everybody just, and I think she got a little overwhelmed up there. It was kind of, I think, a little bit of a special moment.
Yeah, she was
That was
very cool. My favorite has to be John Delancey. I thought he was to this one what Adam Savage was to the last one. He just put it out there. He completely ultra and brilliant. I really, really enjoyed his talk, although, I mean, there were a lot of standouts, to be absolutely sure. I mean, everybody brought passion to it, and I really enjoyed that.
What I loved about Delancey's was that he had actually taken the time to really prepare something. You know, he did like his little bit where he was God and he was talking to us, you know, from the voice of a god, and I thought that was really great. I mean, I guess I'm just too easily impressed, but I always assume, like, when a really famous person gets invited to one of our atheist things, I always sort of assume that they're just gonna, you know, show up and wave and be like, "Hi, I'm here. Thanks for inviting me. Boy, isn't this great?" And the fact that he actually prepared something and really knocked it out of the park was, like, very impressive to me.
I also got to shake hands with Lawrence Krauss. That was fun. I
got a selfie with him.
Yeah, I didn't feel like bugging him for a picture though. Because he was just sort of walking around. It looked like he was just trying to take it in too.
Yeah, I ran into a couple people like that, and I'm so bad at that. Like, I hate bothering people. I hate asking people for pictures. I mean,
at a conference I'll do it, but it felt different at the rally, you know.
Yeah. Well, because I think if you saw Krause around the same time I saw him when he was just walking around, it was relatively early.
Yeah.
So it was like he'd probably just gotten there. He just wanted to go for a walk, you know, get some fresh air, see who else was there, and it was like, man, there's people like stopping him every 5 feet to get a picture and talk to him.
Yeah, I remember like in Pennsylvania when like Matt Delahunt and Seth Andrews come in the door, and I'm like, please, people, do not flood them. I know it's going to happen, but let them check in first. And of course, I even knew the person who went over there, like, I got to get everybody.
Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Well, somebody. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brett.
I'm going to bring us on a totally different tangent. I don't know if you want to just jump in there real quick.
Well, the only thing I wanted to mention was somebody who was around where I was hanging out at the time actually managed to get a selfie with Q himself. So I'm sort of going, oh, damn.
Like, you're allowed to just go up and talk to him?
Well, apparently she did. He was wandering about at one point or another. So that was pretty amazing. But I've got no squawks at all about the Reason Rally. It was just a great time, and I'm glad I went.
Yeah, I'll let you go off on your tangent in a second, Brett. I just wanted to slip in my my protester story really quick.
Sure, go for it.
My protester story from the Reason Rally was because we were talking about this before we went on the air. There were some religious protesters there. They mostly stayed off to the side and just kind of set up their banners or whatever, and waited for the atheists to come to them, which happened, you know. But I didn't really bother with them. I walked past where they were a few times, but I never really engaged with any of them. I did see Saitan Bruggencate walking around, but I did not approach him. But I was going for a walk. It was right near the end of Penn Jillette's set that Jacob just mentioned, and I decided to go for a walk, and because I realized I was in D.C. and I had never actually gone to the World War II Memorial, which is right on the other end of the reflecting pool from where the rally was. So I said, this is going to be an all-day thing. I've got time to see the rest of it and talk to people. I'm just going to go for a walk and go down to the World War II Memorial for a few minutes. And on my way, I was stopped by 3 young men. Like, I was triple teamed, essentially, by these 3 young evangelists. They were really nice. Like, they were super nice. And they had no idea who I was. They didn't know I had, like, a YouTube channel or anything. I was just some random person at the Reason Rally to them.
Poor bastards.
Yeah. Well, I guess. I mean, we had a really cordial conversation. You know, I mean, we talked about all kinds of stuff. They asked me why I was here, and they asked me the basic, where do you think morality comes from if it doesn't come from God? And it was just, stuff that if you're a great debate type person, you've heard it, a million times. It's like Atheism 101, the like Pascal's wager level stuff. And but we must have stood there and talked for 45 minutes. I mean, and I thought, am I ever going to get to the fucking World War II Memorial? But that was my only real encounter with the protesters. They seemed they seemed like they were like college age kids, and I'm old enough, I guess I can call college age people kids now. But yeah, it was just, it was whatever it was. And then they went on to they walked deeper into the rally after I left them, and I thought, man, I hope they don't run into, because I was pretty nice to them, and I was like, not all the atheists here are going to be nice to these guys. Like, they're going to run into the wrong guy who is here just, to hang out with his atheist friends and doesn't want to be fucked with by religious folks, and they're just going to get flattened. I almost felt a little sorry for them.
They hope you see the light, and I'm kind of hoping they see the darkness.
Well, it depends whose light. I mean, because there was this one guy that I walked past just as I was coming in, and that was like maybe not even 9 o'clock. He had this sign with the picture of, I think it was Judge Doom, that character from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, with the the quote from Psalms 14:1. The fool has said in his heart there is no God. And I looked at him and I thought for just half a second, well, do I wanna? No, let's just go and have a good time and burn this noise otherwise, because I didn't come here to argue with people, and just as well, I think.
Yeah, I didn't come there to argue either. I was really happy with how it turned out.
I think part of it was I had my fill a couple weeks before that, where our organization participated in the Memorial Day parade, and like they stick us in like the set of where they have all the nonprofits, and of course we're surrounded by churches. And like some guy gave me his spiel, although actually I kind of respected him because it wasn't the usual stuff. It was more like, I guess, Case for Christ level material, where it wasn't like the basics. It was more like, oh, there's high witnesses and manuscripts, and I'm like, no, there's not. But at least you're not. At least it wasn't where does morality come from.
Yeah.
I'm tired of that one.
Right, or like what caused the Big Bang or that kind of stuff. Why is there something?
Yeah, it was a little bit more substance than that.
Yeah, when they're still when they're still telling you the same stuff that like Thomas Aquinas was writing about.
Yeah.
It's like, can't we move on from here? Because I think pretty much everybody has heard these arguments, and if you're not persuaded, you're not going to be persuaded like the 20th time you hear the same argument.
Well, and one of the things I was telling someone when I first got involved in the atheist movement, I'm like, I was surprised that not only does everybody know the arguments, they have special names for them. And the guy laughed and he said, it's almost like the joke of the comedy club where all the jokes have been told, so they just get up and say the number of the joke.
Right.
And an apologist might as well start doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, Brett, you were going to drag us into a tangent.
Oh, drag, yeah, of course. Against your will.
Kicking and screaming.
Okay. um, I actually commented this on your last You Had Ass video as well. But I just wanted to say it here because I forgot we had the Hangout this weekend. But yeah, so you actually mentioned how you were you shouted out God Awful Movies, which I was super excited about. I love that podcast. I love Eli Bosnick. He's a great guy. All three of the hosts are hilarious. Shit, what was my question? My thing I was going into. Brain fart. But have you actually listened to any of those?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
All right, because
I remember your comment now. You said you were surprised because it's so filthy.
Oh, it is just the absolute filthy shit, which is why I adore it.
Yeah.
Eli is, holy shit, he's a master of just finding the worst things to say about people.
Yeah.
And seriously, if any of you haven't listened to it, I highly suggest picking up a couple of episodes. And the one I suggested in the comments was Loving the Bad Man, which, if you have never heard of that movie, is about a woman trying to forgive her rapist and get in a relationship with him, which is...
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
you know, it's interesting, too, because I saw the Seth Andrews TTA...
So she has to ask him for forgiveness as well.
Oh, now that's over the top.
That's
beyond
awesome.
the pale. I mean, I heard the podcast that Seth Andrews did with them, and it was marvelous. But it was also incredibly G-rated. So at this point, I've got to dial into those guys just to find out the dirt that I'm missing.
Oh, it is great and
it's
terrible.
Really funny. It's really funny, and yeah, it's filthy. I mean, but then again, if you heard some of the things that me and Jason Harding say to each other when we're not recording our podcast, I mean, we can get somewhat blue as well, but we don't. We most of that doesn't actually make it onto the show.
Oh, I want to hear Blue Steve.
But
to be a fly on the wall while you're recording that podcast.
Yeah, it's. I mean. And you know, stuff that I say in private to people when the camera's not on. I mean, there's a side of me that thinks, yeah, I would just feel bad if I said something like just truly awful, and you know, somebody like thought, oh my God, you know, was horrified by it.
I do this thing with my friends where I'll just start laughing, and they know exactly why I'm doing it because I'm thinking of an absolutely awful joke to tell them, and they're like, what is it, man? What do you want to say? I'm like, no, I can't do this one. I can't do this one. And they're like, no, you got to do it now, man. I'm like, no, shit, man. You're my friends. I like you as my friend, so I can't say this.
But see, that to me, that's a really important skill of being an adult that a lot of people on the internet, for whatever reason, have never acquired, or they just don't appreciate it. It's important to know when you should not say something. Like even if you think it's the funniest thing in the world. You have to exercise a little bit of judgment and know, okay, I really want to say this. I think this is funny. I'm not going to say it because of whatever reason. Like that's a really great skill to have. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
You know?
When I'm writing a response to somebody, I have to go through several layers of editing. First, I write when I'm really thinking. Then I edit for grammar, edit for condescension, edit for insult, now edit for more grammar.
It sounds like
then I have what I really say because I want it to be taken seriously. I don't want it to be just a snarky thing that people don't pay attention to. I want them to read it.
Yeah.
It sounds like when I'm cleaning up like audio on stuff. Like you run it through different filters.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, let me take out the noise. Let me take out the the outright hostility.
Yeah.
Take out the lawnmower.
I tried to take out the lawnmower and it was too much.
Yeah,
it was too much. I knew because like I was recording that. He's talking about the most recent Atheist Reads where there is for a few minutes in the beginning there's very clearly a lawnmower running in the background, and
just the question is trying to shut you down, man. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's it. I said, can you do that another time? And he was like, Jesus is Lord. So whatever. But yeah, I was a little bit. I usually like to record those in the morning, and I was a little bit later recording that one, and I just thought, man, however long it's going to take for him to finish mowing, like I don't want to stop for that long. I just want to get this over with. So I went ahead and did it with the lawnmower in the background, and I tried to take it out in post, and it was just too loud. Like if you took it out so that you couldn't hear it at all, then it sounds like I'm talking inside of a tin can. You know, it's just too much noise.
You know, drop out the bottom 3 or 4 octaves or something, and that's just not going to work for your vocal.
Yeah. Well, and plus lately I've been because I stand so far from the microphone on the camera, I've been boosting the bass a little bit so that it sounds better. And that kind of, then you hear like the rumble of the lawnmower. Even if you do take some of it out, it kind of gets put back in with the bass. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
People mow the lawn around here.
One thing I was thinking about as it comes to that, Steve, although I'm sure your budget is just tighter than hell, have you considered looking for a lavalier?
Yes, actually, I have one that I used to use years ago, but it's if I get another one, I'd like to get a higher quality one. I was actually looking at them last week. I'm thinking about getting one at some point soonish.
Yeah, it would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I discovered that 30+ years ago when I was working for an independent sound and film and video production facility in upstate New York, and man, all of a sudden we were constantly going with either hand mics or a gun mic with not the fur style cover or something like that, but just a foam cover, which frankly it isn't worth a good damn. And then all of a sudden we discovered lavaliers, and it was like epiphany.
Audio is the hardest thing in the world. Matthew probably knows more about this than anybody else does, but I mean, audio is the hardest thing in the world to get right. When we've done short films, like that has been the bane of our existence. I mean, because if you shoot a movie and it looks amazing visually, but the audio sounds like shit, then it will read to an audience like a whole movie. I mean, a bad audio ruins everything.
I've seen that, especially when we've done the 48-hour festivals. When you have a mediocre visual but a good audio, the movie tends to do better through the judges than a pristine video and terrible audio. So luckily, that's the side of the video that I work on, is the audio side.
It's said that of the 5 senses, hearing is the simplest. I tend to agree with that. And I think it's why sound is so fundamental, and things like music are so engaging to reception. And Matt, I was going to ask, how did that the 48-hour thing go? How'd you guys do with that?
We did actually pretty well. This was the local DC 48, not the regional one, not anything else. We got into the finals. Our little video did, and we managed to work our way. We got about 5 awards, actually.
Wow!
Best script,
Awesome.
Best costumes, best special effects. There was one more, I can't remember what the other one was. But yeah, we had a great fun time making this film. I will paste the link here in case anyone wants to watch it. So yeah, it was a great time. But we're going to do the same group's going to do the Baltimore one here in the next coming couple weeks. So
terrific.
What's interesting, I'll tell you. I won't make you guess, but I'll tell you right now. This film was shot. The entirety of the film was shot on 2 iPhone 6s.
Oh wow.
Oh.
And with the exception of one scene, there's one scene where it got really dark, and you could tell it starts to get grainy. But other than that, it looks almost like on the big screen there at the AFI Silver, it looks almost like the rest of them. So yeah, it was an iPhone 6s, 2 of them, with a Moondog adapter. You have to look that up, but basically it makes it anamorphic, and so it looks beautiful. So I think it was the first time I've worked on a film where my equipment was more expensive than the video guy's equipment.
Very cool.
Because I have the shotgun, I have the recorder, I have a bunch of lavalier mics now, so that's what I was using.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to watch that when we're done here.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if you ever need any help, because I'm not that far, and I need to run up your way anyway. I need to visit with a friend on a video project, so
oh, cool.
I'll be passing through probably the next couple weekends.
Okay, well, maybe we can have coffee or something.
Sounds great.
Or whatever you drink.
Oh, this is a nice cup of Darjeeling right here.
Ooh. Nice. I'm on my second Batman cup of coffee of the day. So
You must be wired. Do you ever miss saying, "Hey, it's Tuesday on the Breakfast Club"?
No. I mean, I really really enjoyed the Breakfast Club, but when Dev ended the original version and got that funk started the new one, like I knew like as soon as that happened that I wasn't going to do it. I mean, he invited me to join for the new version, and I just said, man, like, I'm just going to take this. I'm going to take this opportunity to step out the door because it was just one extra thing to do. Like my schedule is pretty packed in terms of video production as it is, and plus I like to have time to just relax or hang out with my wife or hang out with my cat. I don't want to be doing YouTube stuff like all day. And the Breakfast Club was like, oh, that's something I can cut out, you know, without cutting into my income. So I don't really miss it.
Yep, just wondering. Yeah, I know you like doing that, or you like that little tag in the beginning.
Oh yeah, I mean, I enjoyed doing it, and I really like some of those videos that I did, and I like the whole, you know, I mean, just the idea of having 5 different people making videos and, you know, talking to each other. Like, I think it's a great thing, and I'm glad that it's still going on. But, you know, it's just like I just started to feel really selfishly about it. I was just like, if I could just not do this, it would save me so much time in the morning. You know.
Everyone needs to change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sorry. I can barely hear you.
I think it's Robert. I don't know if he's trying.
Yeah, it's
Audio issue there. Yeah.
yeah.
There he is.
His face, anyway.
Are you talking to us from an airplane again, Robert?
Well.
Yeah, well.
I think he's here in image, but not in spirit or something.
Yeah. Well, he's with us in spirit.
What spirit?
Sort of, in the Carl Sagan sense.
Ah.
The Carl Sagan spirit sense.
Yeah, I'd be here in the spirit sense, but it's a little early for Glenlivet.
I was going to say, one of the other things I was saying, get back to an earlier topic, was I would have loved to see one of your podcasts, like with Jason or something, where you just turn on the video camera so we can see your expressions. Because I think it would be hilarious to see how you make each other crack up.
Well, when we first started Late Seating, it was a YouTube show. It was a Hangout show, and you can see. I think he still has some of the early episodes up on his channel. But it was
have
a lot
at least
different.
one up on yours that I recall. I was looking at that the other day, but
Yeah.
only a couple, 1 or 2 maybe at most.
But it was a lot different. Like we've changed the format since then. The format of the show we do now, where we summarize the plot for most of it and make jokes. That's a relatively, you know, recent innovation. When we did it back when it was a YouTube show, we would just sort of start with the review. Like we would say, oh, this is the movie we're doing, and then it would be like, okay, what do you think of it, Steve? And it was just like that, you know. I like the way we do it now a lot better because it's like we get to riff on it first.
I especially like that you now give us warning as to what you're going to do. And I'm wondering if you'll ever incorporate some of our Facebook comments in your little review of the movie.
Steal your jokes, in other words? You think
Sure.
I'll ever steal your jokes?
You can steal any of mine. Because I think when you were doing 10 Commandments, I must have been just a couple hours behind you because, of course, long movie.
Oh. I forgot how long it was. I said that on the podcast. I forgot that was a 4-hour-long movie because I had put it off and put it off. I put off watching it until the day we recorded, and I said, we record those podcasts at 3 p.m. my time and noon his time because he's in California, and I thought, okay, I'll just get up in the morning. I'll just get up Sunday morning, and I'll watch it, and then I'll have it fresh in my mind, and we'll record the podcast. And I got up at like 10 o'clock, I think. And I thought, oh my God, this is a 4-hour movie. Like I barely got time to watch the whole thing. So when we recorded that 10 Commandments podcast, it was like I had just finished watching the movie. So it was still raw, and I think that comes across.
How do you get your movies that you watch? Are you like Netflix or Amazon or the local library? What do you do?
It depends. I mean, I think most of them I've wound up renting on Amazon. I mean, if they're available on Netflix or something, then that's great. But most of them, and I end up renting from Amazon. The next one we're doing The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly next, and that one's actually on Hulu, and I subscribe to Hulu anyway, so I don't have to pay anything extra to see that. I think I've got that on DVD anyway, but I think the DVD's at my dad's house. So,
Steve, if you were going to, thinking about Sand and Sandal epics, do you think you'd ever tackle Spartacus? I'm asking. Spartacus is a favorite of mine, and I think of the Sand and Sandals, it's maybe the best.
we did Spartacus.
You did. Fantastic.
Yeah, actually,
I'll have to scope that out.
Yeah, let me look it up, and I'll send you the link in the chat. Yeah, we did Spartacus a little while ago.
Did you
and
do Ben-Hur, maybe?
Ben-Hur?
Yeah.
I would like to do that one. I think we probably won't do it for a while because we just did Ten Commandments. But I mean, I think Ben-Hur is a much better movie.
The first half of Ben-Hur is a great movie, but once you get past the chariot race, it falls on its face, or it sure does seem like that to me. I watched it maybe a couple of months ago, and I just thought, man, chariot race, great, and then all of a sudden, it slows to a crawl.
Well, there's
Yeah,
a
it seems like that to me. Maybe I'm full of beans.
coming out, I think.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, there's a reboot coming out of her, a remake rather.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess everything gets a reboot.
Do you think they'll dial down the religious overtones or crank them to 11?
I don't know. I mean,
Depends on who's producing and directing it.
I guess. I mean, it seems like when they've done religious epics more recently, like the Noah movie, that they kind of like the religious stuff is there, but they sort of cast it more like mythology. Maybe they'll try something like that. Because I know in the Noah movie that was very much the feel I got from it. Like, it existed in a world where, God was real and this is all really happening, but it felt more like mythology than like than an old-fashioned religious epic that was like a reverent sort of retelling of a Bible story. Maybe and I haven't seen the movie, but people tell me that the Exodus movie that they released last year with Christian Bale was like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it was. It looked like something straight out of fantasy. I mean, some of the shots, something like that looks something that like out of the Final Fantasy game or something.
Well, at the end, you're kind of left in doubt as to whether or not God is influencing Mo, or if he's just crazy.
Yes.
And I found our Spartacus episode. I'm going to link it in the chat.
Terrific. Yeah, one thing, if I recall correctly, is that the subtitle of the 1960 whatever it was version of Ben-Hur was A Story of the Christ.
I think that was actually the original silent version.
I'd swear it was the 61 because
maybe the 61 one had the same subtitle, but I know there was Ben-Hur and Ten Commandments have that in common. There was a silent version that, and then there was the remake that was kind of a remake, but was also a lot different. And I know the original silent Ben-Hur was subtitled A Tale of the Christ. I don't know I can't remember if the big Technicolor Charlton Heston version had that subtitle or not.
It appears that Tale of the Christ is listed on the poster for it.
Okay.
So.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
I just took a quick glance at the new one, and I didn't see anything right off the get-go, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, considering the atmosphere we're currently living in right now, and is it me, or has it just been an influx of, I mean, with Noah, and then with the marks like God's Not Dead and God's Not Dead 2 and all this other happy crap that's coming down. It's just, does anybody smell desperation? Because I'm starting to get a whiff of it.
Also public domain.
You mean desperation on the part of Christians, religious people in general?
Well, the Christian people who seem to have an agenda of putting this stuff out there with the hope of, hey, let's reinforce our position, or either that or, let's, Nelly bar the door because the atheists are coming, the atheists are coming.
I think Joanna kind of hit on it though, at least for the big studios, like for the movies like God's Not Dead and Courageous and like the more sort of church funded ones. I don't think that's the case, but for the big Hollywood studios, I think it's the public domain thing. I mean, I think it's that the King James Bible is public property and it's well-known stories that everybody knows. They don't have to pay rights fees to anybody. They don't have to license anything. They can change the story however they want.
But they do have to pay ghostwriters.
Yes.
You'd think they'd spend some of that saved money on the budget of the film, but no.
I don't know. Noah was pretty big budget. I mean, at least it seemed that way to me. I mean, there was a lot of CGI to it, but
Oh, yeah, Exodus. It was a huge CGI fest.
Yeah.
What floors me is that you look at a film like The Green Mile, and I was astonished to see CGI credits for that. Apparently, they were doing something with the sky and with a couple other things there. Well, of course, the mites that are coming out of the mouth and like that. But there was a lot more CGI to that than you originally think.
Yeah. Well, the best CGI is the stuff that you don't even notice.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of times they do very subtle CGI in movies that you wouldn't think have them, and a lot of times it's like the more modern equivalent of using a matte painting. Like they'll use I'm trying to think of a better example, but in the recent the new series of the X-Files that they did, they shot that entirely in Vancouver, including the scenes that take place in Washington, D.C. And so to establish that they were in Washington, D.C. and not Vancouver, they would shoot on a city street in Vancouver, and then with CGI they would add like the Washington Monument in the background. And unless you happen to know the streets of D.C. really well, and you just know like that's not a street in D.C. There's no street in D.C. that looks like that has that view of the Washington Monument. You would never know the difference. So it's not. I think that's a lot of the when you watch a movie or a TV show that you're surprised to see like a VFX credit. It's stuff like that. It's making a street look different, or taking out an ugly building and putting something else in.
It's kind of like how every window in Paris can see the Eiffel Tower.
Exactly.
Everything about film, everything technical about film is always better when it's not noticed.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed Cinema Sins keeps harping on is they're like, why does this movie have worse special effects than Jurassic Park? It's like decades after Jurassic Park, and they can't beat it.
One film I think about practical effects, and a film that I thought had some wonderful, what I presume are largely practical effects, is Dragon Slayer. I thought Vermithrax's pejorative in that was just, it felt real. It had a real gut feeling to it that I really liked. And then I look at something like Dragonheart and I go, no, no grade, not happening. It just doesn't have the same visceral feel to it.
Yeah.
It's an actual physical thing that exists. I mean, it's hard to replicate that with a computer.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was what Go animation, or Go motion animation is what they called it, I think.
Is that the opposite of stop motion? Go motion?
Well, I've heard of both, and I think there's techniques to both. But as I recall, like the dancing Pepsi can in that absolutely horrible thing that Eddie Murray did, the Golden Child. But the Pepsi can dancing in that was wonderful. And I believe that was Go motion. Now, what the technical difference is, not the slightest idea.
Yeah.
I know they. I don't think it was Go motion. I think it was they were very close to doing Jurassic Park with stop motion before they were satisfied that the CGI would be good enough. And I think the thing that in the documentary I saw about it, like Spielberg said, the thing that made him go with CGI rather than stop motion was that even the very best stop motion, like you could just tell that it was stop motion. It still had that little bit of like a jerky quality to it, which I find charming. That's one of the things I love about stop motion. But I guess Spielberg was going for, he wanted it to be absolutely real. He didn't want anybody in the audience to think for a second that they were watching, animated dinosaurs. He wanted them to be real dinosaurs. So
You wanted dinosaurs that look like Gumby. Is that what you're asking for?
yeah, exactly. Which I
Don't you
mean,
bash on Gumby?
I'm Gumby, damn it!
yeah. Speaking of speaking of Eddie Murphy.
So apparently go motion is just stop motion with added motion blur. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they certainly made it work. Because I mean, I don't mean to harp on it, but I love what they did with Dragon Slayer. It came across as very believable.
Yeah. Well, practical effects and practical sets, I think. I mean, even model work compared to CGI. I mean, not that I'm not like anti-CGI at all. I've seen lots of films where the CGI has been extensive and they've been fantastic. But I mean, you look at something like, and this is a really extreme example, and it's probably not fair, but it's my show. Like the Star Wars prequels versus the most recent Star Wars movie, where the prequels were done on like digital sets and digital effects, and everything but the actors in some cases was digitally rendered, and then in the more recent episode, it was back to real sets and practical effects whenever possible, and trying to do as much as you can in the camera before you hand it over to the digital artists. And I think you can just tell a difference. I mean, you can tell.
You can go even past that, Steve. I presume you've seen Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
It was entirely virtual,
Yeah.
and frankly, it looked like hell.
Well, and I haven't seen the second one, but the first Sin City movie was like that too, where like the entire environment except for the actors was digital, and in some cases actors were like characters were playing scenes together where the actors did not shoot the scene together. They were digitally put together. Like Bruce Willis would do his half of the scene, and then whoever he was talking to would do his half of the scene, and they would be combined. So it looked like they were actually there at the same time, but they weren't. And
part of the thing with Sin City was that was part of the intended aesthetic anyway.
Yeah, it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was supposed to look like that. It wasn't. I mean, they weren't going for realistic in that at all.
No, they went for let's do as literal a translation of the comic as we possibly can. And I haven't seen the second one, and I hear the second one was pretty bad. I thought the first one was pretty good. I didn't have a big problem with the first Sin City movie, and I'm a big fan of the Sin City comics, mostly for the art. I thought that was before Frank Miller went completely bonkers. Although the writing was still you could tell he was sort of drifting in that direction, but the artwork on the Sin City comics is fantastic, like incredibly high contrast, black and white stuff. It's just really, really good. And now Frank has left us. Frank has gone off the deep end.
But yeah, I think they also did something like that. I mean, in terms of not having actors in the same shot in Lord of the Rings quite a bit, where they had Gandalf do his part and then the Hobbits do their part. And actually, was it Ian McKellen who did Gandalf?
Yeah,
Ian McKellen.
Yeah. Apparently, this was emotionally affecting him doing these shots by himself that he almost couldn't do it anymore.
I was about to ask, what do the actors think about this? I mean, there's a disconnect, having to work with a CGI background, but when you don't have an actor to play against, I mean, that's just amplifying the problem that much further.
Well, that's like the Kirk Khan scene from Star Trek II. They weren't actually ever together.
Yeah. That's correct.
And apparently they do that a lot in animated movies where they just do the lines by themselves, which I never quite understood that. I mean, a couple of movies will do a recording session with the actors of the scene there together, which would make more sense to me. It seems like the scene would flow a little bit better if you did it that way.
Yeah, you have that a lot in video games as well, where the dialogue will be incredibly stilted because they do them separately, and someone will be like, well, why don't you... Pause. Don't you interrupt me. Pause. It's like, come on, man.
Well, but you can have that problem with real actors too. I mean, one of the challenges when we were shooting one of our neon reel films was because you're doing low budget film, Usually, you're not working with professional actors. If you're lucky, you can afford to hire professional actors, but usually you're working with enthusiastic amateurs, including sometimes yourself. And that can be one of the most difficult things to get right when you're having you're having a conversation. We want you to interrupt each other. We want you to talk over each other. You know, when you're saying your line, you know that the next person's line is going to interrupt yours, but don't say your line like you're expecting to be interrupted. You know, say your line like you have something to say, and then he cuts you off. Like, that's a really challenging thing to sort of grab a hold of. And it's difficult to get right. You know, where, okay, you're going to interrupt me, so I have to say this. But I know that you're going to interrupt me when I get to this word, so I'm going to stop at this word. But that makes it sound fake. That makes it sound like I know you're going to interrupt me, like I'm leaving you a space, and I can't do that if I want it to sound like a real...
It's the kind of thing that needs rehearsal. It absolutely demands rehearsal. I mean, you can't just shoot it live in one take, or I would hope not. No. Or we wouldn't be trying to do that.
I've never done that for a video, but I've done that for stage, and yes, it's very complicated. We spent several weeks practicing the interchange, you know, the stepping over each other's lines.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work to get it to sound effortless, you know.
Well, I think part of it is you have to script a couple of words past the interrupt, just so somebody thinks they have something more to say. Instead of, and part of the problem might be the script where they cut the line there, so the actor literally has nothing to say after that.
Well, you have to have the thought complete. I mean, there has to be a thought on one side and a thought on the other side, and they collide with each other. And even the collision point might vary from take to take, depending upon the dynamic of what's going on between the two actors.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be a scripting problem, or that can be a directing problem, or an acting problem. I mean, the best way that I've found in my very, very limited experience to handle it is, you have to have the complete thought, and either the writer has to give you the complete thought in the script, or you as the actor have to think, okay, what was I going to say if I wasn't interrupted? You know, so you're just charging ahead, and then you get cut off, because if all you have is, but wait a minute, I thought, you know, like, that sounds like you're like, that's all you had to say. Yeah.
Very interesting. I guess because I don't act at all, so I mean, to me it seems like it should be easy, but yeah, I'm an outsider looking in, so I'm like, I mean, piece of cake.
It's easy to describe. Like, the principle is really simple to understand. It's just the idea of everything you do should have a reason behind it. You know, like, your character doesn't know that he is in a play or in a movie, so your character doesn't do things because the script is telling him to do them. Your character is doing it because he's living this moment. So everything you do and everything you say has to have a purpose behind it. And when it falls short of that, that's when it reads as phony. That's when the audience wakes up and goes, "Wait, this is a movie. You know, none of this is happening. This is fake. I don't care about any of this." Like, that's when the suspension of disbelief is broken. And it could be something as tiny as that, as just, wait a minute, they're not really talking. You know, and it can tank the whole thing.
Why did another branch fall down?
I can't really hear you.
Yeah.
I sort of heard her. Oh, we had Robert there for a second.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. A fresh haircut, no less.
Yeah. I've got to actually go to Parliament on Wednesday.
Ooh.
Oh. What for?
Long story short is I've just got to go and testify on an army thing.
Oh, wow.
So I had to have a shave, have a haircut, and all that kind of stuff.
With a mustache like that, they'll definitely listen to you.
We have an important person in our midst.
Thank you very much. And I'll have my hair all nice and, you know, brill creamed over and coiffured.
Brill cream? Oh boy, you did.
Victorian. Say that again?
Did you just date yourself with I mean, a little dabble, do you? Oh my. I mean, that's from back in the 50s.
I was considering wearing my monocle, but I've decided against it.
Oh, please do that. Take a selfie before you go in.
Oh, I can do that, but yeah, I've just got to, you know, it won't even make the parliamentary channel. It'll be so dull.
Yeah.
I don't know about the monocle. 'Cause Spider-Man's current adversary in the comics is wearing a monocle, and he doesn't carry it off worth a damn. And besides, it's appearing and disappearing, so somebody's blowing the continuity business. So what are you going to do with that?
They're tricky to keep in, trust me.
Yeah, you got to keep going like that.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening is the monocle's just popping out in between panels.
Yeah, it's it's verisimilitude. You think it's continuity errors, but really it's just no. That's what really would happen.
I got you, Spider-Man. Where the hell did that thing go?
Ah, damn it! Hang on, Spider. Just wait a second.
Hang in there, get it? Hang in there.
Yeah,
Take two.
I'll do the quips. Spider-Man says. You leave the banter to me, you.
I would think a monocle would
bastard.
leave you with a permanent eye twitch.
Either that or permanent eye squint.
Yeah, wouldn't your muscle memory constantly be just like, I miss the monocle?
Maybe that's how you train your brows so that you can do one brow at a time, because I've never been able to do that.
Like, just keep a magnifying glass in your pocket. Just go like that when you need to. Why does it have to be there all? What are you, a jeweler?
Did I miss a good hangout?
It's been pretty fun.
Sorry.
Yeah, we missed you. So your country's leaving the European Union. That's interesting.
So, yeah.
Asshole.
No one really knows how that's going to happen, but yeah, I voted to stay.
Well, wasn't there conversations about kicking Greece out at one point in time? So, is there a procedure for the exit of a country? And
Yeah,
I
there
thought-
is.
Well, there is. It's a very considerable procedure. The problem is, I mean, I'm listening to the news shows on Sunday morning, and there seems to be an awful lot of buyer's remorse out there.
Yeah.
Never mind what's going on in Scotland and Ireland, who want back in because they like the Bucks. And I'm not knowing the situation, especially in Northern Ireland. I'm not certain I blame them.
Ireland's slightly different because we've had sort of long-standing trade agreements since before the EU with Ireland, and we're Ireland's biggest trading partner. And regardless of sovereignty and borders and passports, British and Irish people transfer across without any passport requirements. So flying to Dublin is like an internal flight. And that's since Irish independence. And that's always been the case. So I don't imagine that's going to change at all. There's some sort of alarmist thing about having customs posts along the Northern Irish border, which I can't really see happening, but, you know. So the short answer is, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen because it's never happened before.
Yeah, I'm smelling a lot of 52-card pickup here as well. There was even somebody talking about some kind of a federation or cooperation between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. I'm sort of going, whoa, really?
No, Sinn Féin had invoked the border referendum, which they do. That's their whole reason for being, is to try and bring Northern Ireland back into the Republic, which on a moral scale I have a lot of sympathy with. There's no reason why that shouldn't really happen as long as it's done in a democratic fashion. But Sinn Féin have just decided to make themselves relevant again by saying, right, let's have the border referendum now. But it's the conditions are not really met. So, but you know, if that was to happen, I personally would have no objection to that occurring, because the border, if you go there and you try and cross the border and use it regularly, it's a meaningless thing anyway. All it means is you change from kilometers an hour to miles per hour. That's it. That's the only sign on the border that tells you there's a border there. It just says speed now in miles per hour. That's it.
Wow.
Well, the thing I've heard, probably completely unsubstantiated, is that this is a domino effect, that other countries are going to want to leave, and even Texas wants to leave the Union.
Well, you know,
Texas can leave the EU anytime they want.
Yeah, just make sure that we keep Aaron raw. That's all I got to say about that.
Get all the liberals out of there first.
Yeah.
I
mean,
let Austin
the
stay.
people in Greece have started talking about it again, and nationalist parties in all the EU countries are naturally saying, right, this is our moment, we can do it as well. But, you know, like a lot of things in the news, those that shout loudest are not necessarily either got the biggest consensus or have a fucking clue what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Those
and
who
there's
shed the loudest are usually the least coherent.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of subtext and backstory like what you just gave us, Robert, that that doesn't make it to the news. And if you don't know the
Yeah.
internals of what's going on, you're likely never to know it.
Well,
And
that's modern
a
news.
big
Modern
loss.
news hits you with 20 seconds of a story, then moves on to the next story. And if there's a fucking car chase down the I-5, that's now more important than anything else.
Yeah. I mean,
And if there's nothing going on in the news, then whatever they deem to be most important, which would be like some fucking weird Norwegian nationalist now talking about Norwegian nationalism, that's now the most important thing. And you know, whatever comes first is equal with is given equal standing, relevance, rather than having any kind of sense of proportion.
Well,
Oddly enough,
For fuck's sake, I mean, a couple of weeks ago we had one MP murdered, which is very unusual for us, and
yeah, that was scary.
it was. But what I'm saying is, it was 24 hours a day for 4 or 5 days, just about the MP's murder. Now, I was quite saddened by the fact that someone was murdered in the street in England with what appears to be a homemade gun. Question: why don't we have that many political shootings in Britain? Answer it yourselves. Anyway, whole other discussion. But if the guy in Orlando had to fucking fabricate his own weapon, might have been a bit different. However,
well, we have digital. We have 3D printers now.
I know, but this thing just got overboard here.
Yeah.
It just got completely overboard with the gushing. Oh my God, wasn't she wonderful? And no doubt she was. But it's just if you force feed a single story over and over and over, people get fatigued of it, and then you start. It has the opposite effect. People start to get a bit find it tedious.
Would you please tell that to CNN, please? Several times.
That's all they do.
Is there any similarity between what happened, at least as far as the news is concerned, between what happened to your MP and what happened here with Gabby Givers?
Well, yeah, almost a direct similarity was shown, as in it was somebody that didn't particularly have a political motive. They were just crazy. This guy is now gone off for psychological evaluation. He had a long history of being on racist websites, back to that, or racist literature, even before there was websites. So, it wasn't some deep nationalistic thing, whatever he said. He's a weirdo. And whoever asks their name is death to traitors, put Britain first. That's not somebody that's coherently taking their legal defence seriously.
Yeah, it seems like
it was the same thing as Gabby Giffords, just a crazy guy who decided he wanted to do whatever. And if you're going to shoot somebody, you couldn't shoot anybody as least offensive as Joe Cox. It just got out of hand.
That sounded an awful lot like John Hinckley, too, come to think of it.
Yeah, somebody's trying to make themselves relevant. But, yeah.
The thing that troubled me, and I mean, because I know there are, I have friends in the UK, and some of them, almost everybody I know was a Remain person and was disappointed at least by the result. Some of them just seem to be like, well, this sucks, but nothing much will probably change because we have trade agreements, and Britain is still going to have to interact with Europe. It's not like going to be the end of the world. And then there are other people who are really, really upset by it. So but the thing that troubles me about it is apparently, and this might be another thing that's just being blown out of proportion by the news coverage, but the folks who voted Leave, and now they're upset that Leave won because they just were voting. It was just a protest vote, and they didn't think it would actually happen. And that troubles me so much because we have a presidential election coming up where there are people, I know there are people, I've seen them on Facebook, I've seen them on Twitter, who say, I'm going to vote Trump because, fuck the system, or fuck Hillary, or whatever. And it's like, okay, unless you want Donald Trump to be the president of the United States when this is over, don't vote for him.
Yeah, this is a multiple choice here.
I would say, and I don't often say things like, I think the stakes are much higher in your election whether Britain leaves the EU or not.
Yeah.
you know, just worldwide, the stakes are higher.
Well, I hope we get it right.
With no minutes to go, I've then
Yeah.
brought up that other subject.
Well,
Yeah.
Steve,
really-
you need to make a video now where you say that. You say, here's what happened in the EU for the Brexit vote. Don't let this happen to us with Trump.
Exactly.
Good off,
Yeah,
they ramble.
I mean, the thing is, I don't know if you have this in the United States. We have this thing called spoiling your ballot. Have you heard of that? That's when you go into the ballot box. And
Oh, yeah.
Because we still use pencils, and you put your cross. You draw your line through everything, or you write something rude on it. Yeah. And that's the protest. Yeah. And when we have the returning officer in Britain, he says so many for this, so many for that. This many, we had 50 spoilt ballots, and this is why. And then he reads out the protests if it doesn't break obscenity rules. Okay, saying you're going to vote Trump because you don't like Hillary is not a protest vote. That's just dumb.
It's suicide.
So if you don't have an option for none of the above, then just don't go voting that day.
Well,
Yeah,
there's the Libertarian
exactly.
Party, the Green Party, and all those other places you can vote for, not for Trump.
Yeah, that's the first thought I had when I saw the Brexit result was, and then I saw people saying like, oh, people who voted Leave going, oh shit, it actually won. I mean,
The Labour camp kept saying every day, every single day, they'd say £350 million goes to Europe every week. They said that every day as part of the thing. And now today they're going, yeah, that doesn't mean we're £350 million better off a week. Hang on a second, you said that we just handed it over to these Frenchies every week, and now you're saying we don't, you know?
Didn't Farage go on TV like a few hours after the result was certified and say, oh yeah, the 350 million thing, yeah, that we never should have said that.
Yeah. But Farage is an outsider. You've got to bear in mind, Farage is like Donald Trump, but he knows 20 more words. You know what I mean?
I get that impression.
Donald Trump's got 17. He's got tremendous and bigly.
And great, and Trump, and Trump, and Trump.
Donald has huge.
Yeah, and Farage just knows a few more. But that's about it.
Yeah. Well, we've come to the end of the hour here, so I'm gonna wrap up. But this clearly this could go on for a while because I will say the one because someone brought up Texas wanting to leave the U.S. and now that the Brexit vote has happened, people are saying, well, what's the difference between states leaving the United States or countries leaving the EU?
EU wasn't a federation.
The EU has a process.
Yeah.
The EU has a very clear process laid out for if you want to leave, here's what you have to do. The United States has no such process. The United States is one country, not a bunch of countries in
stick together
in an agreement.
I know, but I think the people in Texas will see that process of just getting a Confederate flag on the back of their 4x4.
Exactly.
That's just their process.
If you live in rural Texas, you pretty much are in your own country anyway. Nobody pays any fucking attention to you. Just enjoy your life. Fly your Confederate flag.
I have been through some parts of Texas where I'm pretty sure I should have passed a border control somewhere.
Yeah. You know, the whole idea of a country is kind of conceptual anyway. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining me. Thanks everybody for watching. If you thought this looked like fun and you would like to join in, next time we do these once a month. Anybody can watch, but only Patreon patrons can join me in the room. So if that's something you think you would be interested in or you want to support the YouTube work I do, you can do so for as little as $1 a month by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for joining me, and we'll see you to do this again next month. Bye everybody. Goodbye.